The wind howled through the red rock canyons of Arizona, like the roar of a wounded beast, a savage warning that came too late in the winter of 1912. Snow whipped across the frozen ground, biting into my skin like shards of glass as I clawed my way out from under the overturned wagon. My heart pounded in my chest, a thunderous drum against the silence of the storm. The horses had bolted, their panicked whinnies echoing off the sheer cliffs, leaving us stranded in this God-forsaken gully. And there, sprawled in the snow like a broken doll, was the boy. Billy, his small frame twisted unnaturally, his face pale as death under the faint moonlight piercing the clouds. "Billy! Wake up, damn it, wake up!" My voice cracked, raw and desperate, swallowed by the gale. I knelt beside him, my hands trembling as I shook his shoulders, but he didn't stir. Blood trickled from a gash on his forehead, staining the snow crimson. Panic clawed at my throat. This couldn't be happening, not now, not after everything. I'd spent my whole life running from one shadow to the next, dodging bullets and bad luck. But this was my worst fear come to life, failing the ones who depended on me. Beside me, Emma clutched her coat tighter, her lips blue from the cold, her emerald eyes wide with a mix of agony and regret that pierced me deeper than any knife. She reached out, her fingers brushing Billy's cheek, but her gaze locked on mine, silently pleading. This moment, this frozen hell, was the turning point, the one that shattered the walls I'd built around my heart. I could see it in her eyes. The unspoken apology, the shared blame. We'd pushed too hard, too fast, chasing a dream that now lay buried under the snow. But happiness? Hell, I'd never known real happiness in this brutal land. My voice broke as I whispered to her. I ain't ever been truly content here, Emma. This place, it grinds a man down. The loneliness had worn away my pride like wind on sandstone, leaving me hollow. Yet I clung to the ranch my pa had left me, refusing to sell, even as exhaustion seeped into my bones. I'd run for so long, from outlaws, from ghosts of my past. But now, facing this, I was done fleeing. No one answered my silent pleas in the dark, only the distant howl of coyotes under the blood-red moon on those jagged rocks, mocking my despair. That night haunted me. But to understand how we got there, I have to go back, to the beginning. When fate first threw Billy and Emma into my path, it was earlier that winter in the dusty railroad town of Red Gulch, Arizona. The place was a scar on the landscape, split down the middle by iron tracks that carried dreamers west and left the rest stranded. Folks either passed through on the next train or got stuck forever, their hopes rusting like abandoned minecarts. I wasn't sure which I was yet. I'd come back to the ranch after years of drifting. Cattle drives in Texas, gold rushes in California. Always one step ahead of trouble. But Pa's death had dragged me home, to a spread of land that felt more like a curse than a legacy. I remember that evening clear as a rifle shot. The sun had dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in bruises of purple and orange when I rode into town for supplies. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and coal smoke from the locomotives. I tied my horse Dusty outside the depot and scanned the platform. That's when I saw him. A scrawny kid, no more than 10, huddled against the wind in a threadbare coat, too big for his frame. He stood alone, eyes fixed on the saloon across the tracks where lamplight spilled out like liquid gold. "Kid, you lost?" I called, my boots crunching on the gravel as I approached. He jumped, turning those wide, dark eyes on me, eyes that held a wisdom no boy his age should have. "No, sir," he said, his voice steady despite the shiver in his shoulders. "I'm waiting for my sister, Emma. She works at the eatery yonder. Don't like her walking home alone in the dark." I raised an eyebrow, fighting a smile. "You're a mite small to be playing bodyguard, ain't you?" He crossed his thin arms over his chest, puffing up like a cornered rooster. "Emma says size don't matter if you've got heart. And I've got plenty heart." The word hit me like a stray bullet. I'd lost mine somewhere along the trail, buried under layers of regret. But this kid, Billy as he introduced himself, had fire in him. We talked while we waited. He told me about their ma passing from fever 2 years back, their pa vanishing into the bottle, and then the horizon. Now it was just him and Emma, scraping by in a shack on the edge of town. She worked double shifts at the railroad diner to keep food on the table. And Billy? He did odd jobs, mending fences or shining boots, anything to help. As the minutes ticked by, I felt a pull. a strange urge to protect this boy who reminded me too much of myself at that age, orphaned and fierce. "Come on," I said finally, clapping a hand on his shoulder. "It's freezing out here. Let's get you something warm inside." The diner was a haze of tobacco smoke and grease, filled with the low rumble of weary travelers. Engineers nursing black coffee, miners arguing over cards in the corner, and a couple of deputies eyeing everyone suspiciously. I guided Billy to a stool at the counter, ignoring the curious stares. The place smelled of fried bacon and stale beer, a far cry from the open range I craved. That's when she appeared, Emma. She emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron, her dark brown hair tied back in a loose braid that framed a face etched with fatigue but lit by an inner strength. Her eyes, green as sagebrush after rain, narrowed when they landed on Billy. "Billy! What in tarnation are you doing here?" Her voice was sharp, laced with worry as she marched over. "I told you to stay home. Rules are rules. No family in the diner during my shift." Billy shrank on his stool, guilt flickering across his face. "But it's cold out, Emma. And this fella, Mr. Harlan, he said—" "Harlan?" She turned those piercing eyes on me, sizing me up like I was a rustler caught red-handed. "And who might you be, stranger, dragging my brother into trouble?" I met her gaze steadily, feeling a spark ignite in my chest, something I hadn't felt in years. "Name's Jack Harlan, ma'am. Just passing through town, but I couldn't leave the boy freezing outside. Figured a hot meal wouldn't hurt none." Her lips pressed into a thin line, but there was a softness in her eyes, a vulnerability she tried to hide. "Well, Mr. Harlan, I appreciate the kindness, but we've got rules here. Boss don't like it." As if summoned by her words, the door swung open with a gust of icy wind, and in strode Vance Harlan. No relation, thank God, but a name that carried weight in these parts. Tall as a lodgepole pine, with broad shoulders and a mustache twisted like barbed wire, Vance was the division superintendent for the railroad. Folks whispered he had a heart black as coal, ruling the town with an iron fist and a quick temper. I'd heard tales of him firing men for looking at him wrong, or worse, running off anyone who crossed him. "What's this ruckus?" Vance boomed, his eyes locking on Billy like a hawk on a mouse. "Emma, you know the policy, no kin cluttering up the place during hours." "Get the boy out." Emma stiffened, her chin lifting defiantly. "He's just eaten, Mr. Vance. No harm in that." I stood then, my hand instinctively brushing the holster at my hip. "The boy's with me," I said, my voice low and even, cold as the barrel of my Colt. "And last I checked, this is a public establishment. We'll pay for our grub and be on our way." Vance's gaze shifted to me, narrowing with recognition. "Jack Harlan? Heard you were back on that worthless spread of yours. Word is, you're a troublemaker. Always have been." I smiled slow, the kind that didn't reach my eyes. Word travels fast in small towns. But trouble? Only when it's looking for me. The room went quiet, tension thick as molasses. The miners paused their game, the deputies shifted in their seats. For a heartbeat I thought Vance might draw, his hand twitched toward his belt. But he just snorted. "Watch yourself, Harlan. This town's got no room for your kind." He turned on his heel and stormed out, leaving the door banging in the wind. Emma exhaled, her shoulders sagging. "You shouldn't have done that, Vance. He's mean as a rattler. Got half the town scared spitless." I shrugged, sliding back onto my stool as the diner buzzed back to life. "Ain't the first bully I've faced. Now how about that coffee?" As she poured, our fingers brushed, and damn if that spark didn't flare hotter. Her touch was warm, steady, pulling at something deep inside me, a longing I'd buried under miles of trail dust. Billy chattered away, devouring his sandwich, oblivious to the undercurrent. But Emma? She stole glances my way, her cheeks flushing under the lamplight. I wondered then what secrets she held, what pains had carved those lines around her eyes. Days blurred into weeks, the snow falling heavier, turning the streets to frozen mud. I found excuses to ride into town, picking up feed, checking the post, always ending up at the diner. Billy became a fixture in my thoughts. I'd spot him running errands, his laughter cutting through the gloom like sunlight. One afternoon, I caught him helping old Widow Jenkins with her firewood, his small hands red from the cold. "You're a good kid, Billy," I told him, tossing him a coin. He beamed, but his eyes held shadows, worries about Emma working herself to the bone. And Emma, God, she haunted me. Our conversations started short, guarded, talk of the weather, the trains, but deepened. She confided in whispers during quiet shifts. How she'd dreamed of being a teacher once before life derailed her. "Pa left us high and dry," she said one night, staring into her coffee. "Ma died broken-hearted. Now it's just me and Billy against the world," I nodded, my own ghost rising. "Lost my ma young, too. Pa raised me hard, taught me the land. But happiness? Slippery as a greased pig." Her laugh was soft, musical, warming me more than any fire. "Maybe we're both chasing shadows, Jack." That pull grew, a slow burn in my chest. I'd catch myself thinking of her at night, alone on the ranch, the empty house echoing with memories. Was this love? I'd known women, saloon girls, ranchers' daughters, but none stirred me like Emma. Her strength, her fire, it challenged me, made me want to be better. As Christmas neared, the town strung up faded garlands, but the cheer felt forced against the biting cold. I couldn't shake the image of Billy in that ragged coat. So I rode to the general store, bartering for gifts. Sturdy boots, a wool hat, a thick jacket, wrapped them rough in brown paper, and headed to their shack on the outskirts. A lean-to patched with tin, smoke curling from a crooked chimney. Billy answered my knock, eyes widening like saucers. "Mr. Jack!" "What are you doing here?" "Brought something for you, kid. Merry Christmas early." He tore into the packages with glee, whooping as he pulled on the boots. They fit perfect. "Emma's gonna flip!" And she did. When she walked in from her shift, cheeks rosy from the wind. Her eyes flashed anger first. "Jack Harlan, what in blazes? I told you not to come here." I held up a hand. "Just for the boy, Emma. No strings." She watched Billy parade around in his new gear, his joy infectious. Her expression softened, tears glistening. "You didn't have to." But I wanted to. Our eyes met, and in that moment, the world narrowed to just us. My heart raced. Could she feel it too? This unspoken connection, fragile as new ice. Emboldened, I stepped closer. "Emma, listen. Billy needs more than scraps. Marry me. I'll give him a home. Protection. Ain't promising romance. Don't know if I've got that in me, but stability." "That I can do," she recoiled, shock etching her features. "Marry you? For what, pity? I won't trade my brother for security, Jack. Not with you or anyone." Her words stung, but I saw the tremor in her hands, the way she pressed a palm to her chest as if to steady her heart. I left without another word, the door clicking shut behind me like a finality. But riding home under the stars, doubt gnawed at me. Was I fooling myself? Love wasn't for men like me, scarred, solitary. Yet Emma had cracked my armor. Weeks later the snow eased, but my resolve didn't. I penned a letter, simple and direct. "Come see the land, Emma. Between the two creeks, where a house could stand. Let me show you what home could be. For Billy, and maybe more." I sent it via the postmaster, old Sam Wilkins, a grizzled vet with a peg leg and stories taller than the mesas. "Harlan, you courtin' that Worth girl?" he teased, winking. "'Bout time you settled." "Mind your own, Sam," I grumbled, but his words lingered. Settling, was that what I wanted, with her? As I waited for a reply, the town buzzed with whispers. Vance was stirring trouble, docking pay, threatening evictions. I overheard deputies talking at the saloon. "Vance has got it out for that Harlan fella. Says he's stirring up the workers." Little did I know. The real storm was brewing, one that would test us all. I waited on that letter like a man staked out in the desert, thirsting for rain that might never come. Days stretched into a week, the ranch feeling emptier than ever. Just me, the creaking windmill, and a herd of cattle that eyed me like they knew my secrets. I'd pace the porch at dusk, cigar smoke curling into the twilight, replaying every word I'd shared with Emma. Her laugh, the way her eyes softened when she looked at Billy. It all tangled in my gut, a knot I couldn't untie. Was I a fool for hoping? Men like me didn't get second chances. We got graves or ghosts, but something in her, that quiet fire, made me believe maybe, just maybe, the trail ahead could bend toward something good. Then, one crisp morning, Sam Wilkins rode up, his peg leg thumping against his stirrup as he dismounted. "Got a reply for you, Harlan," he grinned, handing over a sealed envelope smudged with coal dust from the trains. "Looks like the Worth girl's handwritin'. You finally roping yourself a family?" I snatched it without a word, my heart kicking like a wild Mustang. Sam's chuckle faded as he rode off, leaving me alone with the paper that felt heavier than lead. Emma's script was neat, deliberate. "We'll come. For Billy's sake, meet us at the shack tomorrow dawn. Dawn broke cold and clear, the sky a vast blue canvas streaked with pink. I hitched the wagon to Dusty and my spare mare, loading it with blankets and a picnic of jerky, biscuits, and apples. Simple fare, but it felt like an offering. Riding into town, I spotted them waiting. Billy bouncing on his toes in his new boots, Emma standing tall in a faded blue dress, a shawl wrapped tight against the chill. Her eyes met mine, guarded but curious, and that spark ignited again, warming me from the inside out. "Mornin', folks," I said, tipping my hat. Billy scrambled aboard with a whoop, but Emma hesitated, glancing back at the shack like she was saying goodbye to more than just walls. "You sure about this, Jack?" she asked softly, her voice carrying a weight I couldn't place. "Sure as the sun rises. Climb on up.